Welcome to Short Verse Creations. You are listening to the Pride Within audiobook. Chapter 5. Leo's mind raced long after the man in the suit had disappeared. The stranger's words clung to him like a thorn buried under his skin, irritating, persistent, and impossible to ignore. You don't belong in this world, not the way you are now. The man hadn't been threatening, not outright, but there was something about him, something calculated and cold. He had spoken as though he knew Leo, as though he had been watching him for longer than Leo wanted to imagine. For the rest of the day, Leo stayed away from the park. He didn't trust himself to go back, not after the man's cryptic appearance. Instead, he roamed the city, his feet carrying him down unfamiliar streets and into shadowed alleys. The air was thick with the smell of oil and garbage, a far cry from the clean, open scent of the savannah. But it was better than sitting still, than letting his thoughts consume him. By the time night fell, he found himself standing outside Sophia's apartment building. Watching over her, Leo didn't know why he had come. He told himself it was because of the men at the shelter, because he had to be sure she was safe. But deep down, he knew it was more than that. There was something about her that drew him in, something he couldn't explain. She made him feel human, or at least something close to it. From his position in the shadows, he watched as her apartment lights flickered on. The room was small, its furnishings simple, but it felt warm, inviting. Sophia moved through the space with an easy grace, her auburn hair catching the light as she poured herself a glass of wine. She looked tired, her shoulders slumped, but there was a quiet determination in the way she carried herself. Leo's gaze softened. She didn't deserve this, the threats, the fear, the danger that seemed to surround her. She was good, kind. She didn't belong in a world of violence and shadows. But then again, neither did he. As he turned to leave, a movement caught his eye. Across the street, a figure lingered in the darkness, their posture tense and watchful. Leo's body went rigid, his instincts flaring. The figure wasn't just loitering, they were watching her. He moved without thinking, his footsteps silent as he crossed the street. The figure didn't notice him until it was too late. Leo grabbed them by the collar, slamming them against the brick wall of the alley. "Why are you watching her?" he growled, his voice low and dangerous. The man, a wiry, nervous-looking guy in his late 20s, raised his hands in surrender. I wasn't watching her, I swear." Liar. Leo's grip tightened, his golden eyes narrowing. "Tell me the truth or—" Okay, the man stammered, his voice trembling. "I was sent here, all right, to keep an eye on her." "By who?" The man hesitated, his eyes darting around the alley as though looking for an escape. But Leo didn't give him the chance. He slammed him against the wall again, his teeth bared. "Who?" "The group," the man gasped. "The same guys who run the shelter. They think she knows too much." Leo's blood ran cold. He thought back to the men at the shelter, their threats, the way they had spoken to Sophia like she was expendable. His grip on the man's collar tightened. "What are they planning?" he demanded. I don't know," the man cried. "I'm just supposed to report back if she leaves her apartment." "That's it, I swear." Leo stared at him for a long moment, his mind racing. He could hear the man's heartbeat, fast and erratic, smell the sweat that clung to his skin. The predator in him wanted to finish it, to eliminate the threat, but he forced himself to let go. "Get out of here," he growled. "If I see you again, you won't walk away." The man didn't need to be told twice. He stumbled out of the alley, disappearing into the night. Leo watched him go, his fists clenched at his sides. He had to warn Sophia. The truth comes out. Sophia opened the door with a hesitant smile, her eyes widening slightly when she saw him. "Leo, what are you doing here?" "I need to talk to you," Baptiste said, his voice urgent. "It's important." She stepped aside, letting him in. Her apartment was small but cozy, the walls lined with bookshelves and framed photographs. A calico cat lay curled up on the couch, its ears twitching as it watched Leo with mild curiosity. "What's going on?" Sophia asked, crossing her arms. "You look tense." He hesitated, unsure of how to begin. He wasn't used to explaining himself, to putting his thoughts into words, but she deserved the truth. "There are people watching you," he said finally. The same men from the shelter. They think you know too much. Sophia's face paled. She sank onto the couch, her hands trembling slightly. I don't, I don't understand. All I wanted to know was why some of the animals were disappearing. That's it. They think you're a threat, Leo said, and they're not going to stop until they're sure you're not. She looked up at him, her eyes filled with fear. What do I do? I'll protect you, he said without hesitation. The words surprised even him, but he meant them. He couldn't explain why, but he felt a responsibility for her, a need to keep her safe. Sophia stared at him, her expression unreadable. Why are you doing this, Leo? Why do you care? He didn't know how to answer. He didn't fully understand it himself. All he knew was that the thought of something happening to her was unbearable. Because I can, he said simply. The line between man and beast, the days that followed, were tense and restless. Leo stayed close to Sophia, his senses on high alert. He could feel the danger closing in like a storm brewing on the horizon. Every noise, every shadow put him on edge. Sophia tried to go about her life as usual, but Leo could see the strain in her posture, the way her hands shook when she thought he wasn't looking. She was scared, and she had every right to be. One evening, as they walked back to her apartment from the shelter, she stopped suddenly, turning to face him. Leo, she said, her voice quiet but firm, I need to know the truth about you. He froze, his heart pounding. What do you mean? You're different, she said, choosing her words carefully. The way you move, the way you fight, even the way you look at people. It's not normal. He looked away, his jaw tightening. He had spent so long trying to hide that part of himself, to blend in. But she had seen through him, just as he had feared she would. I was raised in the wild, he said finally, by lions. Sophia blinked, clearly taken aback. You're serious? He nodded. I don't remember much about my life before that, just fragments. But the lions took me in. They taught me how to survive. She stared at him, her expression a mix of shock and disbelief. That's incredible and terrifying. It's who I am, he said quietly. I can't change it. Sophia was silent for a long moment. Then she reached out, placing a hand on his arm. You don't have to. Leo looked at her, surprised. There was no fear in her eyes, no judgment, just understanding. For the first time in a long time, he felt something close to hope. The storm breaks, but hope was fleeting. That night, as they returned to her apartment, the danger finally caught up with them. The attack came without warning. 3 men emerged from the shadows, their faces obscured by masks. One of them grabbed Sophia, pulling her back as she let out a startled cry. The others advanced on Leo, their weapons glinting in the dim light. Leo's vision narrowed, his instincts taking over. He moved like a shadow, his body a blur as he lunged at the nearest attacker. His fist connected with the man's jaw, sending him sprawling to the ground. The second man swung a crowbar, but Leo ducked under the arc of the weapon, his movements fluid and precise. He struck the man's ribs, the impact forcing the air from his lungs. By the time he turned to the third attacker, the man was already retreating, dragging Sophia with him. Leo's rage flared, a feral growl escaping his throat as he closed the distance between them. He grabbed the man by the collar, yanking him back with a strength that felt almost inhuman. The man released Sophia, stumbling as he tried to regain his balance. But Leo didn't give him the chance. He struck him once, twice, his fists a blur. The man collapsed, unconscious, at his feet. Sophia stared at him, her eyes wide with fear and awe. Leo, he turned to her, his chest heaving. For a moment he said nothing. Then he stepped closer, his voice low and steady. You're safe now. End of chapter 5.